All right, ladies and gentlemen, I need to preface this by the way I make my tier list for champions is basically it's like the higher up in the tier list, the more likely I think that the champion is going to be good in the game. Like the way League of Legends works, right, is that in terms of how strong champions are, is usually tied to how blind pickable they are, meaning that they have a theme and they have a like a very consistent lane matchup against most champions that people are actively picking at the current point in time. And basically, like a champion that maybe is C tier in some games can be S tier, like in if it's picked on 5 or 4 or 3 into specific matchups with specific compositions. Because obviously you need to contextualize a champion with basically, the rest of the champions in the game. That is all, right? Additionally, something that will be so rampant during this MSI, we're going to have so many lane swaps. And that really, really changes the dynamic of both top lane matchups and bot lane matchups because you can't heavily skew yourself towards, of course, matchups that are super winning and want to play in isolation and rely on getting significant leads. T1 is probably the team in the world that gets countered the hardest by pure virtue of the fucking lane swaps existing. I don't know why I said it so weird. I couldn't get the words out. T1 like to play Varus, Kalista, Draven. This is where they perform the best. And they pair it with a support that is very lane winning, right? Halo Blades, AD carries, and so forth. They play Rumble as well. They often skew themselves very hard to pick a champion late so Keria can enact his mechanical skill, and level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they get a significant advantage. Nico, right? The same thing for Zeus. It's like Zeus has been the most successful. He's been playing the TFs, he locked the Vayne, and he gets to pop off. Even something like Aatrox is something that I should remove the banner because I don't need to embarrass myself with my TFT rank in an MSI patch rundown discussion. I don't need to embarrass it. So it's like a champion like Quinn can be good against Renekton, but in the case where a lane swap happens, Quinn with very little economy is going to be in a lot of cases worse than Renekton. Renekton can be more durable on dives. And these are now characteristics that we need to add into our evaluation when we think about champions. Let's talk about the patches. It's like most major regions played on 14.6. 14.7, I think 14.7, the biggest thing was just Rek'Sai nerf. Rek'Sai nerf, Rel got headshot. So I guess I can just write this down, right? 14.7, Rel, jungle, death, karma, slight buff, support damage down. So think Camille, Rumble, Nico. Like their scaling is of course worse because the support item is weaker. There is also like Static Shiv got nerfed, so it will be purchased less, of course. And Nami also was a champion that also got reworked in a way where her healing has become more empowered and so forth. It's like another thing is like Camille got buffed. They nerfed like the E damage, but they buffed other parts of her kit, which maybe it's going to be relevant. I think those were the headlines. I think Rek'Sai as well. Rek'Sai top got nerfed. Basically, the amount of rage you stack when hitting the wave is less. So Rek'Sai laning against ranged champions is going to be quite miserable. I think there's going to be matchups where you still can play Rek'Sai top against melee champions because how much fury you stack when hitting melees or champions is still the same. It's just when plants and minions you stack less, right? That is all, right? So Rek'Sai versus ranged is very, very tough. because obviously his sustain is attacked, but I think versus melees, Rek'Sai should still be played. 14-8. I think the highlights are like the Draven buffs. I highlight them because I think still Draven is a champion that is quite decent, so it's something that can impact things. Adi got nerfed in terms of lane power and W base damage, but I think he will still be played in the same spots. Galio is something that also got a buff, 5 move speed, I think it was. We can pull it up. Galio. So Galio got a move speed buff 5, which is pretty big, and then Q cooldown down. This is after the rework from the previous patch. We can continue. Galio plus, which is to the plus, Azir minus, nerf, Hui, slight plus. I think Rise is probably the biggest highlight, like his W slow to 30% to 50% is pretty massive, you know? It's like you don't really need to play for the root and you can go for damage combos. And I think that Rise is basically, I feel like Rise is going to be what LeBlanc wants to be in terms of where Rise becomes peaked. LeBlanc as well, her early is a little bit stronger, but I don't think it morphs the matchups. Still very reliant on, you know, the details of the game. Meaning, you know, she has to have a jungle that pretty much carries her, and I think it's quite unrealistic considering like all the mid laners that didn't get nerfed, right? It's like Talia, Ahri, Orianna, like all of these mid laners that have been played for so long now that dominated all of 14.6, they are still going to be dominating. There's nothing really that changes them in my mind, right? Nothing really changes them. Kai'Sa got a cheeky little buff. You know, I think Kai'Sa is something that we'll probably see more play. You know, champions that get buffed, champions that are already being played and they're getting buffed, I think they should always be happy, right? With this, with Kai'Sa, with the Q buff, Draven buff as well, with the 5 base damage on Q. Hui was picked occasionally. There was some LPL mid laners that really enjoyed Hui, like Rookie and Fofo, but it's something that we saw pretty much a lot less of, you know? So there's that. So I think in terms of the patches, they're rather light, but I think the biggest change to the meta game is just lane swaps. That is just the biggest change, right? That's just the biggest change in terms of the meta game. So I want you guys to remember, you know, the criteria that I mentioned when I'm judging these champions, right? I think the fact that Rel is nerfed, it's hard to find super good AP junglers besides Maokai that can keep up with a game that is being played. I don't know if people are going to be wild enough to want to play Nidalee or Brand or Karthus and make the game solely about themselves. I don't know which jungle is going to go to the World Championship and actually do that, you know? I think that the Sylas jungle changes, I don't think that they are enough to be significant, but I could be wrong there. I could be wrong there. Graves buffs. I don't know, like if the hotfix is going to fix Graves. I can't really tell. I don't feel like the Graves buffs matter. I don't know if the hotfix is going to fix it because apparently it's going to be bugged, but in my mind it's like, how often do you actually buy attack speed on Graves, you know? It's like passive reload time, scaling adjusted, critical damage ratio per pellet. It's like they want you to move into crit build, which is fine, you know, critical damage ratio per pellet, but I don't think it doesn't change the idea of Graves for me. I think in a lot of games you wanted to go like Yumu's Collector, LDR, or Shield Bow, right? That was like the go-to build. And I think by the time you have Yumu's, I think a lot of things are already like predetermined if you're doing good in the game or not, you know? It's like you need to be like pacing super fast, and rather than, you know, like sure it improves the scaling of Graves, but I think Graves being successful in a game or not is determined by how quick he finishes Yumu's and how he can keep up, you know, with pretty much the fucking game, right? So adding scaling, I don't think this changes the idea of Graves, you know? Maybe I would talk about this Milky Way qualified, you know, but I don't think it matters, you know? Like in terms of the other changes, I don't think that they matter in the context of, you know, what's going to happen at MSI, in my mind. Mordekaiser is something that was discussed a lot, right? It's like Mordekaiser. I think this buff matters, but for completely different reasons than what people are talking about. It's like the main conversation that happened on Twitter when this came out was AD carries were crying that they can't QSS because Mordekaiser is gonna one-shot them. I think this is that interaction I don't care too much about. I think that Mordekaiser ulting frontliners like a Sejuani or a Maokai or a support, I think that is the most impactful part. And the fact that they can't itemize QSS, I think that's where like Mordekaiser is the happiest. Also the fact that, you know, you can't break his ultimate with natural cleanses. I think that's a really, really big deal. I don't know if like Mordekaiser is strong enough to be played against the meta top laners though. I can't really think of where you would want to play it. You know, could you play Mord? I can't really judge. I have very limited information. I would have to talk to the Whipmeister. Someone picks like a very, very weak lane, like a tank top, you know, for sure you can always slam a Mordekaiser, but those are spots where there's a lot of other things that you can pick, you know. Maybe you can pick like Ghost Ignite Mordekaiser against like Aatrox, or maybe you can lane it against K'Sante. I'm not so sure. But I do think for Mordekaiser enjoys the buff is big. But I don't feel confident enough to say that this will be played or it won't be played. I just don't think it changes the fabric of the champion, you know? I don't think it changes the fabric of the champion, of how clunky it is and how hard it is to achieve what you want to achieve in some games. So there's that. But like for me, the biggest impact still is, you know, enemy jungle can't buy QSS. You're gonna QSS in Nash, like ultimate Nash situations and 1v1 them. You play Mordekaiser against fucking Xin Zhao. These things matter. I don't know if you can do something goofy as like play Mordekaiser jungle into some specific matchups. I'm not so sure. But I think this buff here matters a lot more for other reasons than what people think, I think. I don't care about ulting the AD. I care about ulting jungle and ulting supports and one-shotting them and then taking them out of the fight and them having no escape due to like an item purchase. So, okay. All right. So, biggest change to the meta game, lane swaps. Top lane, like if I think of top lane, right, like the main things that were unchanged, I think Twisted, like S+, what I think of, right, it's like Twisted Fate and the Rumble. Like S+, meaning like these champions are very, very good in a lot of scenarios. I think that in a lot of cases they are blindable. I think that the answers into these champions are rather wonky. But then again, you know, like weak in lane swaps, right? It's like these champions are S+ in my mind. Just I lost my train of thoughts. I read something in the chat, then I just spaced out. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm in the middle of something. I'm recording. No, I'm not even hungry. But thank you very much, Andy. All right. Okay. So once again, Twisted Fate and Rumble, it's like they are S+ in a standard game, but in a non-standard game, they become a lot weaker. Like these champions rely on getting advantages, right? So it's like these champions, you want to attack them in the lane swap department. Plain and simple. You want to attack them in the lane swap department. This is where you hit them, right? It's like K'Sante is a little bit more durable as a blind because, like, economically it doesn't get shut down the same way, and he can scale into the game and be fine, right? But K'Sante in still the same fashion, it's like if he's behind the curve, he's going to be weaker. But that's true for any top laner if we're going to go down that rabbit hole, right? We continue. It's like the other top laner, the B is like B tier is like they are more reliant on the game. They need to have specific conditions in the game to be really good, in my opinion. Still, these are champions that can do super well in some specific games, in my opinion. Like I think TF, Rumble, K'Sante are still solid champs. Yeah. So we have the likes of like Urgot, Udyr, Gragas. I don't know where to place. Aatrox, of course, belongs here. We have Zac as well. Zac got slightly nerfed. We have Jace on occasion, These are champions that can be very, very good in some specific games. In some games, they are worse. I think that they are just a little bit more conditioned, I think that, like in my mind currently, I don't rate Gnar, Gwen, like Olaf, these champions super highly. I wouldn't know where to place Rek'Sai. Like, I don't know if this change killed him completely, but I feel like that you can still probably pick it into some melee situations. It's like you have the likes of lane swap god Sion. It's like to put Sion in this tier list. It's like, yeah, if you pick Sion and you do something active level 1, he can be S. Like you can just put fucking Sion in S tier if it's a lane swap situation because he's the goat of lane swaps, right? It's like he just provides you with so many options. You can do Sion swaps, you can do invade, super strong level 1, very good diver, very good with low economy, can sack himself to kill a wave and to slow down the enemy push. Like in lane swap, Sion is S plus, Can put Ornn in here too, sure. What else? It's like probably Camille would land here too. Like if you have the right comp around Camille, I think it could work, but I don't think that top lane will change. It's like we can put a Zeus tier, right? Zeus tier. It's like Zeus and Keen tier. Like Zeus, Keen. It's like Ryze, Vayne, Quinn, Tristana. It's like these champions very weak in lane swaps, but can dominate games completely. Right? So it's like we saw what Vayne can do in isolation. I think the Ryze could probably be picked into TF, Quinn into like a Renekton, right? Can be massive. Tristana the same thing into Twisted Fate. There's room to be experimental with picking like a range champ, but Rel being out of the game also hurts the chances of these champions being picked because when Engage and low economy champions and CC generally can come from other places, you have more freedom to pick other things topside, right? Rel being out of the jungle definitely hurts the opportunities you will have to pick something like this top, because when Rel is out and let's say Maoka is out, it's like what are the junglers that are going to be played? There's going to be like Xin Zhao, Lee Sin, Viego, Volibear. Like these champions don't pair well with these type of champs, Inside of these posts, thank you very much for the raid, Thank you very much, Inside on Esports. We are currently actively thinking out loud about the upcoming MSI. Is there anything that we missed? You know, we can have like, I guess, Adam tier. You know, it's like Darius, Garen. I feel like Garen is not too shabby. Garen's not too shabby. What else? What else is there? What else is there? I guess it's like the Jax, right? Jax and occasional Yasuo, but I think we don't need to put Yasuo. I think that's top lane. Yeah, I think that's top lane. I think these champions are just. It's the most interesting thing is that lane swaps really hurts carry top laners. So just pay attention to that, you know? Like, it's hard to put these four in any type of tier because these are very situational, very conditional, you know? Malphite is picked sometimes too, but I think we've covered most important things. Jungle, I don't know. I think Vi is just the GOAT. Like Vi is just the GOAT because of everything that's happening around her. You know, it's like Vi. If Vi can survive to level 4, Vi is gonna have a great game, and that's something that you can set up in a lot of cases. I already mentioned mid lane meta, right? Talia, Ahri, and so forth. It's like Vi is good against most mid laners. Vi is good with most mid laners. It's like, do you have spells? Nice. I have a combo with Vi because I guarantee hit them and I break the ankles of most carries in the game. Vi just whops the game completely, and Vi is plain and simple OP. I don't think anything is as frequently good as Vi. It's like if you want to beat Vi, like you need to do some Volibear action, you need to do like some Volibear Varus, you know, you need to fucking be actively fighting her early levels, and you need to have a very decisive game early on. But with lane swaps also being active, she can still dive quite well with her Q. I still think that she, you know, like lane swaps being there in heavily skewed bot lane matchups, she's very happy. Yeah, so I think Vi plain and simple is just S tier. Beyond that, it's like A tier. I think what stands out to me is just like Maokai, Xin Zhao, you know, fall into similar category, and I would borderline want to put Volibear here too. I think Volibear is like a champion that is like underrated by the eastern regions, but Volibear is a champion that like I could see a scenario where Volibear like breaks Xin Zhao or Maokai early enough to justify a Volibear pick, you know. So I think Volibear is something that belongs, and I repeat, like fucking Rel is completely out of the picture, you know. Let me just think out loud once again when it comes to like the B tier. It's like Sejuani is there, right? Sejuani, and it's like you can maybe put Wukong in here, right? Wukong is something that can be picked into Vi, and you can pick it into Xin Zhao too. Probably don't want to play it against like the AP tanks. C tier, it's like these are very situational champs like Nocturne, Poppy. I think maybe I would even go so far. I'm considering putting Ivan here. Ivan is interesting to me. I think that Ivan maybe is something that can be played more. I'm trying to think, it's like how well would Ivan do in lane swap situations? How well would Ivan do in lane swap situations? I haven't thought about it too much in terms of how Ivan would operate, because it's kind of unique because you need to mark your camps. You need to mark your camps. I will put Lee Sin and Viego here just because of like the mid lane meta, right? Last time I was on Grab stream, he said the classic Vi is one-dimensional champion. I said that's one-dimensional way of thinking because after all, you're the one controlling the champion. It's like calling a gun one-dimensional. It's like, yeah, I can fire bullets, but I can also rob a bank, right? I can rob a bank, and I can also, you know, defend myself. I think that there's more to it, you know? Because like if you just say that you know, like if you boil someone, if you boil a champion down to just like, oh, Ari just charms people, then yeah, they sound very one-dimensional, you know. But it's like Vi's ultimate is very comprehensive, you know. It's like a spell is a tool, and you can use it for many things because it enables a lot of other tools on your team. It's just that Vi is guaranteed, right? Why C tier Poppy? It's like when Poppy is good, she's really good, but in all other cases, she's trash. So I repeat this one more time. It's like the lower you are in the tier, the less common in my mind it will be that your champion is going to be really good in the game. But it doesn't mean that there's not going to be a Nocturne game where Nocturne like dominates. It's like Kha'Zix. So it's not like there's gonna be games where Poppy is more useful than all of these champs, right? But those are just less frequent, you know. It's like jungle carry tier. It's like Kindred, Katus, Midlane, Brand, Graves. It's like, thing is, no one will do this at MSI from the major regions. Maybe Shun. Maybe Shun. And that's it. I guess one thing to talk about, right, is like in the spirit of talking about lane swaps, it's like junglers that do well in lane swaps are just junglers that clear fast and can dive. It's like the faster you clear, because it's like you need to always keep up with your bot lane. You need to keep up with your bot lane during the swaps, and you need to be on the right side, because if the enemy top laner can farm or they have information on you, it's a disaster. So farming fast and having like power in the dive, that's most important, you know? That's why I'm so unsure about like Ivan, you know? Like Ivan in those situations, it's like he can't clear fast, he needs to mark his camps, he needs to, you know, needs to be some type of way. Tam and Xayah rise hugely in Prio with Vi being so good, no? Well, the thing is, Vi has been good for this entire year and also the entire last year, but in a lot of cases, it's like you get kind of punished for picking Xayah in terms of lane phases. Maybe YamatoCannon and lane swap situations is something that we will see a lot more because these champions just scale well together. It's like YamatoCannon and lane swaps, I can see that being super viable. Yeah? For sure. Mid lane, it's like S plus. So it's hard because it's kind of like rock paper scissors, you know. I have a feeling that Karma will come back. It's like S plus, you populate it with. It's like It's like fucking Thalia, and then it's Ari, Aurelion Sol, Azir, Orianna. But these are like very, very rock, paper, scissors, you know? It's like, if you have Orianna against Aurelion Sol, Ari, you're very happy. If you have Aurelion Sol against Azir, you're very happy. If you have Azir against Orianna, you're happy. Thalia, I think, probably is the one where you can get away with the most, you know? It's like, I like Tristana too. It's like, if I just look at mid lane in isolation, I feel like Tristana would belong here, but Tristana is way too conditional. Way too conditional in terms of draft. So it's hard to actually lock Tristana. But Tristana, when you have a composition around her, she is for sure like up here, you know? She's fucking up here. But it's just so infrequent. And especially with Rel being nerfed, it's another one of those champions that you want to pair together with Tristana. So we're gonna put Tristana here. I think that we can put the Nico, the Annie, like you can even go so far to put Galio and Rides here, because I think these champions are very, very good supportive champions when you want to have a strong 2v2 mid jungle, right? Like the strong 2v2 mid jungle, like let's say you have a farming bot and the enemy can stack waves and you need to have power in the mid lane. You lock in like Nico, Viego, you can dominate through mid and you can cover your bot by contesting river through mid. That can be like an approach to the game. Or Annie into Ari is something that can be picked. You know, these are champions that really rely on jungle pairings. And Hui is just the weaker variant of everyone above him, you know? We can also squeeze in Corki here, right? It's like Corki is an answer into Azir, but I personally like the other answers more, you know? I personally like the other answers. I think Aurelion Sol is just broken. I'm not gonna lie. Like if you have a good match of Aurelion Sol, I think it's really fucking good. I think that probably you can move Orianna up. Because it's very blindable, Orianna. It's like you can B1 Orianna and you're going to have a decent game every time, you know? She's not going to be mind-blowingly amazing, but she's going to perform really fucking consistently well. Because she's just such a strong laner, okay? Very, very strong laner. You have the melee champs, it's like Yone, Akali. I think very unlikely, like the melee tier. I think it's just unlikely. I think they lane too poorly. LB, the thing is, I think that I would never want to play LB over these champs that are in B tier. I would rather have Ryze, you know? Would rather have Ryze. I don't see the point, you know? I guess you have Syndra, Knight. It's something that is going to show up every now and then. Is there anything that we missed? I have to say though, like in terms of agency, I feel like mid lane coming into this MSI is fucking massive. Like I think mid lane is going to be explosive, you know? Knight, Chovy, Cream, Faker, Caps, you know, mid lane has a lot of agency. Karma is a good shout. Actually. Karma belongs. Karma is a good shout. Where's Silas? It's like Silas we can put here, but it's also like very unlikely, right? It's like I remember seeing like one good Silas mid game in major regions, and that was Showmaker picking it on 5 against KT, right? And that was like a turbo game, but just very unlikely, you know? It's like if it's some sport where you have like Sejuani and you have turbo ults, and you have Maokai, you have an easy matchup, you have a support that can support you, very niche, right? But that's true for most melees, you know? I wouldn't be surprised if some of the playing teams maybe slam a Silas. I just don't think that these buffs are enough to make him explode, you know? Maybe I'm wrong on that point. Maybe I'm thinking too little about scenarios of where he can pop off, you know? Okay. Botlane. You know, Botlane is a funny one, you know? Laning. S plus in standard. S plus in standard is like Varus, Kalista, Draven. It's like S plus in standard. But S plus in lane swap. Jinx. YamatoCannon. Tristana. I could see Kaiser being good too. What are the criteria we're looking for, right? You need to be able to hit the turret, but most importantly, you need to kill the wave fast, right? So a big part of the process is that you keep pushing, keep hitting, right? Keep pushing, keep hitting. When the enemy bases, you need to base too, and you need to be able to kill the wave that you're on as fast as possible. Because then the enemy bot lane needs to open, and you open on the other side of the map. It's like Aphelios. I don't think Aphelios is good in lane swap. I don't think he is. Lucian any good in lane swap? So-so. After that, it's like Lucian, Zeri. What else do we have? It's like Aphelios. Senna. Zeri. Twitch could be picked right if people get greedier, you know? I think the Twitch push is too slow. The thing is, like, people bring up this fucking Ziggs thing all the time. Like, people bring up this Ziggs thing all the time. And the thing is, the champions, like the other champions on the list, right? Like Jinx. It's very rewarding for her to have fucking gold. Ziggs having gold is completely unrewarding. Like, the whole point of picking Ziggs is that you want to neutralize your bot lane matchup in a 2v2, and then you want to play some carry topside. But the thing is, like, guys, if you over fucking commit to the idea of picking a champ just to hit the tower, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, it's like you need to still win the game. Like, you still need to win the game. It's like, I'm picking Jinx because I want to scale. The enemy needs to punish me, so I want to walk away from the matchup. You guys are forgetting what actually incentivized us to create the idea of lane swap in the first place, right? It's like, we are lane swapping because we want to be rewarded for getting to a certain point of the game. The point is not to make the lane swap as good as possible. Sure, you can optimize with demolish and so forth, and specific like picking jungle picks, but they need to still fill the other criteria that we care about. Because these criteria win us the game, right? It's like, the key difference here is like Jinx, YamatoCannon, Tristana, Kaiser, these are champions that scale very well. They scale very well, right? They scale quite well. Put that shit too, sure. That's it, I think. That's it. I don't think there's anything else that is like significant enough to yeah, it's like Twitch you would pick into Zeri, right? Like Twitch you would pick into Zeri, otherwise I don't see where you would play it, you know? Someone asked, wait, I just want to address that because it's a good question. I am sorry, what is stopping Jin from solo laning versus enemy top and support moving towards top? Nothing is stopping from that happening, but the enemy team has achieved exactly what they wanted. They have disrupted your matchups, right? That's the key thing. I will release a full video breakdown of lane swaps, where I will break it down and I will congest it into 10-15 minutes. You will understand exactly what is going on, when to do it, when to not do it, how to counter it, can you counter it, and all that stuff, right? But the simple thing is that it comes from a place of wanting to avoid rough matchups and giving up platings that you would lose either way. Because after last year's Worlds, T1 was a team that heavily indexed into the matchups, right? They picked fucking Varus Caitlyn and they picked Ashe Botlane. Like now Rumble came up, you know, they heavily indexed into matchups. Same thing for top. A lot of top lane champs that are being picked are very indexed towards their matchups. Like the Vayne, Rumble as well, Twisted Fate, Jace. These are champions that don't manage games well when they are behind the curve of the rest of the game. Not behind enemy top lane, because most of the time they can still be fine against enemy top, but they're behind everyone else in the game. Like if you're playing Twisted Fate and you're level 9 and the enemy mid lane is level 11, you don't have presence. Wasn't Kalista Sivir the best AD champs when lane swap was last best? Well, the meta was very different, right? Kalista was giga broken back then, and back then you could actually freeze. Back then you could freeze, you could TP on minions, which is super important. You could TP on minions from minute 1. There was no like nothing. And additionally, you can heavy hit the turret. You can hit the turret as 5. Then that changes the whole dynamic, is because the enemy, like right now, if you hit the turret as 5, the turret gets more armor. The turret just plain and simple has more armor, so you can't hit it as 5. In the past, you could hit it as 5, and what you would do is that you let the wave die to the turret and make the wave bounce into you. So the enemy needed to answer. And if you hit the turret faster, it actually meant so much more. Because 5 people hitting the turret was a real thing back then. Additionally, you could share XP with your jungle. Right now, all jungle experience goes to the jungle, the person who last hits. Back then, if people were dragging their balls on your jungle, you basically, you know, share XP and you can walk to the lane, level 2, 3, and there was a lot more elements to it back then. Aren't we forgetting about the other dimension of lane swap? Marco, bro, are you even listening? We've mentioned this many times. We've mentioned this many times. Like, it's also written on the board, you know. We've mentioned the conversation of how it impacts top lane extensively. Ziggs is useless support. Please, guys. Ziggs support, please move on. Like, Ziggs support is pointless. What the fuck are we doing with Ziggs support? Brother. Zeke's support was like viable season 2 when this champion was giga broken. I don't know. If people are playing Zeke support, then yeah, it is what it is. I will cover the lane swap. I will cover the lane swap. But let's just finish the meta discussion. So it's like as boring as it might sound, fucking Nautilus. Like Nautilus is the vibe of support. Nautilus is the vibe of support. It's like obviously there's gonna be games where Nautilus goes 0-10. I understand that. But there are a lot of supports that are gonna go 0-10 in those games too. You know, it's like Nautilus pairs well with most ADs, has an ultimate that breaks a lot of mid laners and a lot of like the Nautilus. It's like every jungle your super locks in Nautilus, you're happy. Every AD pairs well with Nautilus, you're happy. It's not giga optimized, but if you're picking something early, Nautilus is your guy, you know? If your name is missing, you can put Rakan here too, right? It's like if your name is on, delight, missing, you can put Rakan here too. But only on is going to the tournament, you know? Only on is going to the tournament. It's like we don't have the Rakan. The Rakan enjoyers are not going. The Rakan enjoyers are not going to the tournament, guys. 8 here for sure. It's like Rakan, Renata, right? It's like Lulu in lane swap. He's the GOAT. Like Lulu is just the GOAT. Rakan, Renata, like this is of course tied to the AD pool, you know? It's like these champions are gonna do well in most games. It's like sure, if you're playing Renata and you're playing against lane demons, like just lane demons, it's like Nico, Rumble, Ashe. Lane swap inviters. Nico, Rumble, Ashe. Is this something that I'm missing? Fucking Annie. It's like Annie is like with an asterisk because Annie doesn't really belong, you know. Annie doesn't belong here. B tier, it's like combos. So of course you have TK, you have Milio, Nami. It's like the combos, right? It's like fucking, how can we rate Nami as a support? It's like Lucian Nami. It's like, these are combos, you know? B tier, you can put, probably, it's like, fucking Rel, Blitzcrank. Fucking Pike could be played, maybe. Pike could be played, maybe. Maybe we put him in like C tier. It's like Pike, Leona, Yumi. I feel like Janna could be here too. Like Janna has had some spots where it's decent, right? And then I think we can put Thresh here too. Thresh for sure here. We can put Thresh there too. We have some Thresh enjoyers for sure, yeah. Senna, we already mentioned Senna here. Like, we don't need to convolute it. Can't Kate be good to counter lane swap? Why? Caitlyn is a champion that needs to dominate lane and needs to get advantages. She naturally gets platings. Sure, she can headshot the turret, but she can headshot the turret, but Caitlyn is a champion that needs to get advantages. It's like Kalista pushes fast, Draven pushes fast. Draven pushes fast, Kalista pushes fast, Varus pushes fast too. He gets passive on hit and like when he kills minions, right? Like they push fast, but they are in the same. Caitlyn is in the same boat as everybody else there, you know. It's like Caitlyn is something you would want to lane swap against. A big issue of Caitlyn as a champion is that her attack speed coefficient is fucking garbage. Caitlyn's scaling with attack speed is horrendous. That's why she feels awful to play on 2 core, and she needs to get like 3 core, 4 core to like pack enough punch in every auto that she does, because her scaling with attack speed is just a lot worse than all other ADs. But if you're playing Kate Lux, you're picking it because you want to stomp enemy bot lane, you know? It's like these champions paired with the S plus standard ADs. Like these champions, right? These champions, you pair them with Draven, you pair them with Varus because you want to fucking dominate super giga hard, right? The lane phase. But these are just the champs that you want to lane swap against. Why does no one play Nyla? I don't know the power of like playing like Sona Nyla or something like this. I just think that in terms of what champions are being played in every other role, it just seems so hard to play Nyla, no? Imagine playing Nyla against fucking Talia, Vi, fucking K'Sante or some shit like this. It doesn't sound so nice, you know? Like Nyla's interesting as a champion. It's weird because Nyla is fine in some spots against like heavy dive because of a W, but in those cases, most ADs just want to play Xayah. Xayah is like the better version of Nyla. Nyla's power budget is placed in such a weird place, you know? It's like her power budget is in such a weird place because she generates more XP for her support. She synergizes with healing and shields. So it's like her power budget is like all over the place. But maybe Nyla is something that is underrated. It is something that I haven't thought about enough. I can admit that for sure. Bard, yeah, Bard is something I forgot. Bard belongs here. I think there's games where Bard is. Yeah, maybe you could do something like that, yeah. Like, let's say you pick Nyla Sona and you lane swap and you get perfect CS with Nyla Sona. I could see a game with those champions carry games. I don't think that idea is too crazy, yeah. It's like Nyla Sona, you get free lane with Sona, you let your Nyla take some damage from minions so she heals from W, you hit the turret, and then you have a Sona that is scaling. Sona is definitely something that could be like God tier in lane swaps. Because Sona's scaling is insane, but her laning is gabaggio, right? In most cases. So it's not, you guys are on the right path of understanding what we are looking for, right? It's like, you want to be able to push fast, and you need to scale well. Those are like the two crucial details. Because keep in mind, in a lot of cases, you do lose gold for lane swapping. Because the enemy doesn't have the fucking shielding on the bottom turret. Right? So keep this in mind. I think that's pretty much it, yeah. I think these are my expectations for MSI. I don't think it's like super exciting. I don't think it's anything is super crazy. I think that these patches were quite light. And I think everything is going to be centralized around lane swaps. We will do a comprehensive video that breaks down lane swaps completely. Meaning like when to do it, how it happens, why is it good, will it happen in MSI, all of this. It will happen at MSI. 100% will happen at MSI. All of the teams are figuring it out right now. it's like the element of lane swapping is cool because it prevents teams from going full degen mode in terms of the early game, you know? But usually balance comes from the fact that these champions need to fucking snowball hard, so maybe there's an in-between. But as much as I love lane swaps from the coaching perspective, because it allows so much strategy in draft, right? It's like you can pivot, you can pick bad matchups with the intention of swapping, so it adds such a deep layer in draft. Like if we assume that everybody knows how to lane swap, draft becomes completely warped, right? How can you break the lane swap? Essentially, it becomes a mind game. It becomes a mind game, essentially. To break a lane swap, you need to have the information that the enemy goes to a specific lane and match. That's how you break the lane swap. But even then, due to the shield on top, the top turret shield, right? You're just gonna get less platings in a match scenario where you're playing top. So the worst case scenario for the team that lane swaps is that they are matching a lane that they would have matched in the first place. So that is the worst case scenario for that, you know. Yeah, I think Harchuari hit the nail on the head, you know. Like that's my take. It's like I think if Silas doesn't get first blood on first clear, like I feel like you fucking clear so slow, and I think that you can't keep up with the meta game, because it's like jungling in competitive is all about hitting beats and farming your camps while simultaneously hitting those beats. If you can't, on a champion like Silas, if you can't farm, you're gonna be useless. But there's a lot of points in the game where you're not allowed to farm. I don't think any jungler will play Graves at MSI. I don't think the buffs are meaningful at all. Very hard for Riot to balance Graves, because yeah, Canyon hasn't played Graves in 2 years, I think. I don't remember the last time I saw Canyon play Graves. Sorry, homie. But the patch note he was reading was the rel changes. But he was based, right? He played Kha'Zix into Xin Zhao. It was pretty fucking based. I miss tracking the pros. We will track the pros when all the boot camping starts. It's like we will see when Chovy and the gang they start playing, and we're going to be watching it. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. When it was happening in real time, I was not excited. It didn't look like a fucking easy Kha'Zix game, but I misjudged. Like he got a lot of freebies. Good into Xin Zhao for sure, right? Good into Xin Zhao. And Canyon smurfed it. He really smurfed it. He outplayed Ona that game pretty hard. Ona did some mistakes too. But okay, I think we covered everything. I think I have nothing left to say.